Hello, my name is Catherine Duncan, and today I am interviewing Hoy Lanning Sr. About the influences of World War II on his life. Hello, Mr. Lanning. Can you start off by telling me when and where you were born?
Well, I was born in December 1936 right here on the family cattle farm. So 79 years ago.
What were you doing before your life became a part of World War II?
Well, I was small. It was prior to the time I started first grade. But I got to observe the first power lines in this part of the county. Until that time, and that was done in about 1940. Until that time, this area of the county had no electric power.
Wow. How did the experiences that you had during World War II impact the rest of your life?
Well, I remember it so vividly because I was visiting my granddaddy Lanning at the time. And
At the time that you heard
at the time that I heard about the war, when Franklin Roosevelt came on the radio, and he had me sitting on his knee in his living room. And of course, the thing that's hard to believe now is that we didn't have television, we didn't have FM radio, we only had the AM stations, and he always listened at 6 o'clock to Grady Cole's broadcast from WBT in Charlotte. And of course the old AM radio would crackle and pop. But that's where I was when I heard about the war, and he told me how bad it was and so forth. That was Pearl Harbor, which was December 7th, 1941.
So you were how old then?
So I would have been 6 years old.
Wow. So what are some of the life lessons that you learned during
Well,
that
there are
time?
lots of things that we learned from it. First of all, everything from shoes and gasoline to food were issued to you as a family on stamps, and you had to submit stamps to buy even a 5-pound bag of sugar. And you were allotted like 1 or 2 pairs of shoes a year.
Wow.
In gasoline, my dad was driving an old 1936 Ford car, and it loved gasoline, and his allotment of gas was 5 gallons a week.
Wow.
So we ended up moving to a house in town so that he would have enough gas that we could go to church on Sunday.
Wow. What message would you leave for future generations that don't have to experience that kind of stuff?
Well, I would tell them to pray that they never have that kind of thing to go through. It was so close to home. You know, when you have only a few radio stations, as an example, there were only 3 radio stations that we picked up here at that time. One was WBT in Charlotte, which was 110 on the old AM radio dial. Another was SJS in Winston-Salem. And the third one was a radio station in Greensboro. And they were the only 3 that you could even pick up in this area. And of course you didn't have modern antennas. What you had was a long wire from the back of the radio that ran out to a pole 30 or 40 feet away to give you an antenna strong enough to pick up that voice.
How did World War II affect the dynamics of your family?
Well, it affected it in many ways. There were no cars built in 1942, 43, 44, or 45. So the old cars that you had to try to keep running. But it also affected a lot of other things. But primarily the automobile manufacturers were all converted to military production. Mm-hmm. And I had 3 uncles that ended up going to World War II.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, it was very, very close to us. and one of them who ended up wounded and in a vet hospital for months. The Jeep in which he was riding overturned on him and crushed his pelvis. So it was, you know, it was the main topic of conversation for the family and for people in general.
What would you say, like how long would you say the recovery period took for your family?
It was a long time because I know my dad bought a new car in 1946, and that was the first ones that came out. And people would, you had to sign up for them way ahead of time and stand in line when they would come in to buy them. There was no negotiation for price. But there were many things that were affected for years and years.
How did the rationing of food affect your family's stability and, you know, mental?
Well, it probably affected us less than most people because we started growing sorghum cane here on the farm, which we used to make molasses. And so you use molasses as a substitute for sugar on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And of course the vegetables and so forth we grew here and canned, but people who were less fortunate, didn't have the space to grow it or gardens to grow it in, had a rather tough time.
Is there anything else that you feel like we haven't discussed that's really important about World War II and how you experienced it?
I don't think of anything else that would be of interest to you, but
Well, thank you so much.
well, you're
for your
certainly
time.
welcome.
Thank you.